Alright, we are recording. So, as it quite clear, this is Viscera Claim Detail because Amnesia Rebirth ended on an odd number of videos, and rather than try to do a pickup for one of those, because I had everything, gonna do some levels in this. It's Cryogenesis is the next one. I already looked at my notes to know what it is, and this also means, though, hang on, I think I need my headphones a little bit. That we'll be running the some of the free license-free music that you can get from YouTube, because that way I don't need to worry about from the YouTube audio library. I don't need to worry about copyright strikes, because this is, it's been months since the last one of these, but it's a pretty chill game, something, play your music with, or play with a friend. There. And I don't much care for, the in-game music. Honestly, my desire would be, for, in a sequel, this is a big one, trying time would be that in a feature for an upcoming Viscera Claim Detail that they would have, they should have a thing built in for playing your music files. Some games have that. There. I do need to remember how to play this. Where exactly I am going. There we go. Alright, that should be better. Just turned it down in VLC. I actually haven't looked for a while to see what the, what big teeth you have. To see what the, plan is from RuneScape, the developers, for doing a sequel. But they had shared some, and it was basically yeah, we're gonna keep with Unreal Engine, and also that they do intend to do something. This is actually really, what's up with that? Really convenient. The whole having this stuff right here, so I can work on just clearing this out. Now, I'm glad that I also have the macro in Audacity to raise the levels of the desktop audio. I cannot hear anything right now, and I do not want to just go back and turn it up. I'm going to close this door, just so that I can't accidentally push things all the way. Alright. Now let's get to this, which that's not going to last long. maybe not. I thought I just heard something that's like, is that the music playing? No, apparently not. Wow, that did not last long. So one thing I can talk about, and I talked about this in Amnesia Rebirth as well, but, you know, maybe there's some weird people out there that, you know, don't want to watch that, but would watch this. I'm sorry, it's like you're already weird if you're watching any of these videos. I have very low confidence in anything I do. And that's probably... Okay, so that is... and I screwed up. I should have been cleaning the way to the incinerator. Anyway. The, thing that I talked about in Amnesia Rebirth, and I'll talk about here, and I'll go into a little bit more detail. Because Amnesia Rebirth, you kind of need to be paying attention. This, as I said earlier, is more of a chill game. So, since I started this back in 2016, I've been, you know, collecting and sharing the data, right? I mean, you know, there's a link in the description, I think, for every video that points to the data that I've just been uploading to a Google Drive folder. Well, I have a day job now, and I've had it for 6-7 months, something like that now. I'm recording this in March. I started in the job in September. And one of the things that I've done to try to fill my time on some days, because, you know, I'm doing QA work, and, well, you know, sometimes you have to wait for the developers to finish something before you have something to work on. It just happens, so I would work on sort of enrichment projects. There we go, I knew there was on. I mean, don't, you know, take it the wrong way. I'm not just doing random stuff. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna work on writing the current story I'm working on. It's like, no, I'm not gonna do that. But I do things like work in LaTeX, because I've actually managed to convince them to use LaTeX for some stuff, so it's appropriate to work on that, try to come up with some neat tricks there that can help us provide a better product. But I also worked with R, because at some point we hope to have some analytics built into the software. I think I might be able to clear a path, yeah, okay, I had a feeling that was it, but wanted to give it one last try. Okay, I think this is... I think it's spent. And that... Oh wow, that still had... No, it just turned... Whoops. So I used to actually use Excel for managing some of the data. I had forgotten about that. For managing some of this data. But I switched to using Excel to using R some years ago, because it's just so much... It really is the better tool. But one of the things that R does offer via a package called Shiny, a little bit of an odd name, but it is shiny, it is neat, is the ability to create web applet. So that you can, well, that was annoying. Like have your data in a web page and have people be able to view it, but also do some level of manipulation. Well, that's the kind of thing that we will, if we're going to build in analytics and choose to use R to do that, that would be the tool to use. So I started teaching myself how to use that ending data to work with. I naturally worked with the body and games data. I mean, it's my data. I know how I want it to be shown, so I don't need to worry about like, oh no, the customer is going to want data to be shown in this way. It's like, well, I don't know that data, I don't have that data, so you know, it's always easiest when you're learning something if you can build it to what you want. You know, when you're still learning. When you're still learning. I think I'm going to swap door. And I've now deployed. So, the place that makes Shiny also has a shinyapps.io website that you can have a free account or paid account. I'm using a free one. To put the app up on, put your apps up on so that anyone, you know, it's, you know, hosting for it and processing. So I set one up that I think is pretty good. There might still be a change or two I could imagine, but it's pretty solid for the body and game stuff. So now if you go to that, there's a link in the description for this video that it will give you, this is the, it will take you directly to the, you still need to hit a button to actually load the specific data, but it will load up the data for all of the Viscera Clean Detail videos, which is a lot of, I know. But you will be presented with a table that it will initially show, I think, mean and median, but there's also a checkbox thing over on the left that you can turn on lower, which is for lower quartile, upper quartile, min and max, so, you know, the minimum and maximum for that entire part. And it will appear in the table. There's some, for performance data, video game performance data, I've got something more advanced, but I don't think that's really needed here. It's like, so that's there. But there's also a tab that you can go to see graphs. That will include a histogram for just the one part, and you can select which part. That's easy. It's literally just a drop-down list. You select it, and I think you do need to hit I don't remember if it updates to that part immediately, or if you need to hit a button. I just don't. But you can do that. I'm sure that's better. And that gives you the histogram there. And it will also give you the stats from the table for that part. So you don't need to go back to the table. But what else I did? And this is where it's the whole, okay, you know, everything here is like, yeah, I could just, you know, show you a table. I could just show you a graph and be done with it. But what makes working with an applet like Shiny so nice is interactivity. So along with having the histogram, it will also have a course graph. That's what I call it. It's, you know, just data over time. So data is on the Y, X is time, or time in video, to be more specific. And so you can look at that. So currently with the heart rate graph, which I don't remember which corner of the screen I put that in, for these videos. So the yellow line that's being drawn on the graph there, that's basically what is on the course graph. But it will show the full width of the video, the full length of the video across its width. Which, yeah, that's, you know, kind of dense. That's gonna make it hard to see any detail. Well, I fixed that because one thing, as I was saying, with interactivity, you can actually, in R, it's referred to as a brush, but you can actually click and drag on the graph, on the course graph, and it will give you a zoomed in portion for what you've highlighted, what you've brushed, in a second graph. It will also give you some of the stats. I think gives you the minimum and maximum at and the times that they occur at for the selected area, and I think the mean and median. I don't remember if I set up to support any other stats there. I don't know how useful that's going to be, but still is I think that it's a pretty neat tool, and it has all of the data. I went through, because I have all the data in different places from all the videos, so I went through and put those all in there. This one is actually, for Viscera Clean Detail, it's going to be kind of wonky. because I need to append it under what already exists, whereas because I do these sometimes months apart, so I don't have all the data nicely collected into folders. But yeah, I'll be able to have this all in there. And the thing that I added just yesterday was a bookmarking system. So the link that is in this description, it's more than just the address to the more than just the address to the app. It also has the information there to tell it what data to use. Just a clean detail, which I think is valuable, because that way the link takes you wherever it is that to the relevant data, instead of my having to manually change it every single time I upload a video. So much easier. I mean, as it is, I have to re-upload the app every time just to add data. But I mean, it's not like it's that hard. It's nicer if I can do it where it's just put in the data file, or update the data file in this case, and just submit it, and I'm good. That's a lot nicer than having to go in and rewrite part of the code. But yeah, no idea if anyone's actually going to care about that, since I don't think anyone cares about these videos or the data, but still, it was a very fun exercise. I enjoyed working on that, and who knows, maybe someday somebody will be like, oh wow, that's actually neat. But it also, it really was a good first effort to work on ahead of getting to what I'll probably have to do for work, which we're not there yet. But the video game performance data, oh man, that is so much more, but so much more awesome. Oh, and I almost forgot the Body on Games app. It doesn't just have the histogram for single parts. It does also have a faceted histogram, so it shows the histogram for every part. And you can actually turn on and off. You can change what parts are shown in the table, in the stats table. You can the same setting, the same options control that graph as well. I don't really think that's going to matter too much to people, but it was just one of those, well, maybe you only want a version of the graph that has 3 parts. Now, unfortunately, one thing that is the case, and this only matters for Viscera, this game, is that for this game the parts are only numbered. So yeah, that's gonna make some of it harder. I don't have the level name. Those are in the descriptions and the thumbnails, but I just keep track of these things as part numbers. It's much easier to do that in the file system. But I mean, it's is what it is. I think this is, well, that's definitely special. But yeah, I am, so the Body on Games app, that one's out now. Not exactly a published thing. It's like, hey people, look at this. It's gonna be in the descriptions for videos, and I also made a video to that'll go, well, went live. From my perspective, will go live with the first Amnesia Rebirth video. But it just goes through what all it's capable of. The applet. That okay, I really don't push this map. I am gonna work this way, though. So let me imagine this. But I do not know. Maybe by this time it'll have come out. The performance, the video game performance version. I have working examples. I could publish it. It's just I don't know yet what we want to do with this. If we want to try to do at Overclockers Club, have it hosted on our servers. If we want to continue to use the free thing, which has limits. Yeah, I've actually managed to crash that server, the server instance. I'll explain. But, yeah. And we could pay, and that would fix the crashing, actually. I'll explain. It's how I'm saying it just now sounds a lot worse than actually. But, yeah, I would really like to see it deployed widely for all my future any video game article where I take performance data. I'd like to use this. Just because, I mean, so for the heart rate app, it, you know, it mean, median, lower quartile, upper quartile, min and max. Those are good, but, you know, there's so many more stats than that could be informative. And for performance behavior, I know that there's a lot that would be better. I've been using several for a while. But the thing is, you know, like having percentiles. I typically use 1 to 99%, so the 1% extremes and 0.1% extremes. But maybe you're curious on what the 95% is, for whatever reason. I mean, let's be honest, the 1% extremes, 0.1% extremes, it's all arbitrary. We're just picking those numbers because they sound nice. Okay, so that was definitely something. But it's completely arbitrary, and that's something that even, like, true statisticians, you know, people who have actually taken a stats course in their life, unlike me, even they will acknowledge it. Yeah, we just pick what we feel like. It's arbitrary. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just, you know, let's be clear, that is how that works. But I set it up in the app that you can actually you can type in a percentile and it will be added to the table. It can actually take multiple percentiles. It can also take multiple frame rates if you want to know the percentile that corresponds to a frame rate, as opposed to the frame rate that corresponds to a percentile. It's like that's just one of the features in it because I wanted that to be there. And I think that that's awesome, which is why I really want that deployed. I just don't know yet how we're going to. What I might do... Oh man, I just realized that's gonna be a pain in the ass. Oh man. Okay, so for the video game performance one, unless a video game review comes up that would call for it, I want to do a performance analysis in Dying Light 2. I figure that could be a good place to deploy, because it is set up. It'll work fine with performance analysis. That's, you know, part of my testing was with data from a performance analysis, and that's also how I crashed the server. The free account, the server instance, is limited to 1 gig, and the Serious Sam 4 data is apparently too much for that. And it's entirely reasonable that Dying Light 2 would also be more than that, because that's 3 APIs, and I have 8 GPUs. So yeah. That could push it. Fortunately, storage wouldn't be a problem. It would just be the, hang on. Damn. I had a feeling. That the X-Emitter died. I wonder, how long ago did it die? Let me look. I'm all tabbing now. I only got about 20 minutes. Alright, that's not terrible. We've only lost about 4 of them. Oh wait, no, we lost more than that because I started the timer. Alright, that almost certainly is just the batteries died though, so between this part and the next one, I will go and get more. Anyway. So yeah, I would like to do the Dying Light 2 performance analysis with it, I think. And just, like, force the issue then. Because like, I'm not getting feedback from people, because, I mean, to be fair, the people on staff, they're busy. And the other people that work and write for OCC, you know, they're busy, so they don't necessarily have time to look at my thing, but I figure that could be okay, I've put it in here, so we're gonna see what the community thinks. And hopefully it's not a problem that it's on the free account. We'll find out. But yeah, so it's like 1 gig of RAM. It's a limitation for instances. It's also only 1 instance versus multiple. So that's, well, how many virtual machines? So you can actually have multiple people connect to the same virtual machine, but, you know, eventually it's going to be bogged down by a bunch of people. But it's also only 25 hours of active time. That is what I'd be more concerned with. But the thing that occurred to me is that I am going to be ordering some stuff for the test system later today. A new cooler for it. The box cooler that I have on the 2700X, I mean, the Wraith Prism is a good cooler. It is. But it's also kind of loud, and the RGB is kind of bright. So, and I've had it 2-3 years now, and it's like, you know what? I have the day job, I can afford to do it. I'm gonna buy a better cooler and put that in there. And it's like, hey, I have these. I put together, you know, some CPU thermal performance data scripts. Why don't I actually use them? Well, I've already used them, but why don't I use them for this? You know, and compare. And it's like, well, that would be a nice thing to also try to do. There are some aspects of that would be good to do to make applets for, but I'd actually have to make those. But it could also be like, you know, I collect the data and sit on that for a while. I've done that before. I've had, oh man, the GPU thermal testing article that I did. I had that data for I think 2 or 3 months before I actually finished the article. I mean, it was a lot of data, so it took a while. But yeah, sometimes that's what you end up doing. I would not be surprised if some of the more professional reviewers, if they also have that, if they do that kind of thing, where it's like, yeah, I've been sitting on this data for months now. I'll get to writing the thing up eventually, but it's, you know, like, this is a neat thing. I wanted to do it. But I had other things that I needed to do first. It really is a competition on priority. Oximeter is still going. That's soiled, so I might as well hang it. There it is. There. Get it to sink a little bit better in it. What am I walking? And I see another end trail here. Oh man, I feel like I'm already running out of things to talk about. So I talked about, I did the recordings in Amnesia Rebirth. I can talk a little bit more about that. I like that game. I think that's, of the 3 Amnesia games, the best. That's my opinion, and it has been years since I played the other 2. But, and I'm sure there will be people that disagree, but it's just, to me, no, I think that one is the best. It was properly creepy, properly scary, and not Because I'm sorry, just to me, and I talked about this in those videos as well. But just so much of it for like Dark Descent, because Machine for Pigs did nothing for me. It like, okay, whatever. But Dark Descent, it's like, okay, there's a monster there, but it's just in the darkness over there. It's like, I need to be afraid of the dark. That's, not that big a deal. I am an adult. And yeah, the dark, the unknown can be problematic, but it never really connected with me in a way that actually had me truly afraid. At least I have no memory of that. I remember being like, oh yeah, and it's just standing over there in the darkness. Alright, whatever. But Rebirth, it's like, no, these things were actual threats. I actually was afraid of them. It's like, how am I gonna deal with this? And they were imposing. So yeah, I think that definitely made that a better game. Well, better horror game. The experience itself was also good. Like, it is also a good game, but I don't remember the gameplay experience of, like, Dark Descent that well, so. So, I can't really do that comparison so well. I do remember the horror, though, and how it's like, I mean, okay, yeah, that's there. But, so what? Okay, I'm just thinking, I'm gonna stop going down this path, because, like, I'm getting far enough away from the furnace, from the incinerator, that I want to figure out where the, thing is that gives the bits. Because I really don't want to be running back and forth with, smalls like this. Not this far. Okay, so that, in fact, was soil. What more can I talk about? I tend to talk about some tech stuff, don't I? Oh, how about this? Now, true, this is coming out after. But that's okay, I'll still talk about it. So, AMD has shared what they are going to be, their presentations at GDC this year, so Game Developers Conference. And one of them is concerning the future of image upscale. So, just as, and I know I've talked about this stuff before, but I never know what people have seen before. So, largely since NVIDIA launched its DLSS with the RTX 20 series, and DLSS 1.0 was crap. There's reasons why a lot of people are saying, don't bother with it. Just don't. But DLSS 2.0 is not crap. It still has its problems, and if you know what to look for, you are definitely going to see them. And I do know what to look for, sadly. Well, no, it's not sad. It's sadly because, like, yeah, I don't want to ever use DLSS because I spot this stuff, but at the same time, it's not sadly because, well, I review this, so it's helpful to know what the weaknesses are. Anyway, ever since that, though, there's been tremendous interest in upscaling technologies. The idea... basically, the hardest part to rendering graphics is actually coloring in each pixel. Okay, is shading each pixel. That's what it is. It's shading. Like that is the actual term. And well, if the most expensive part of something is that work, then makes sense. Well, let's find a way to reduce the work. So if you run at a lower resolution, then you can reduce that amount of work and improve performance. But you had a low resolution, so you've got a loss of detail, potentially aliasing issues, all kinds of things. So how do you address that? Well, that's what DLSS is supposed to do. but in general you want something that upscales. So it takes that image and it tries to interpolate between the pixels what should go there to fill in the new pixels. And DLSS is using a trained neural network in order to try to better guess what is supposed to go between these pixels, go in the new pixels. And yeah. Well, AMD finally, after a while, and to be fair, DLSS, FSR, all of them, in my opinion, are gimmicks. Doesn't mean that they're not interesting technologies, they are, but they're gimmicks. But AMD finally responded with their Fidelity FX Super Resolution, which is also upscaling, but it does it in a very different manner. DLSS takes the current frame, but it also uses previous frames, so it is a temporal method so the neural network gets more than just what is that pixel at this time, but what is that pixel at this time, and the frame before, and the frame before, and the frame before, and the frame. And it can use all that to better figure out what the new pixels around it are supposed to be. Okay? Sorry, I'm starting to hold back a small sneeze. It's not bad. Whereas FSR, AMD's thing, it's only spatial, so it's only looking at what that pixel is right now to figure out what should go around. And there are pros and cons to it. The con is that does mean it's less information compared to temporal, where it's like, yeah, it's still only one pixel, but it's then multiplied by like 4 frames that we use. Okay? So with temporal, you have certain advantages there. But a disadvantage is temporal requires hooking into the game a bit better. It's a more involved process. FSR is, like, there were stories when it was first announced, the developers saying, yeah, we implemented it in like 2 hours. But that was like to have it optimized. To just put it in there was like 10 minutes. DLSS in no way is like that. And I don't remember exactly where or when it was, but I know there were developers, and also some at the time of FSR saying, yeah, DLSS is like 2 weeks to get that properly in. So, the fact that AMD is saying that, hey, we're going to be talking about the next generation of this, is like, ooh, what are we going to see here? Is this going to be FSR 2.0? Is this going to start adding in a temporal element? Are we going to see some kind of machine learning to assist in figuring out what the new pixel should be? And all that. And it's like one rumor I saw, but it may have just been speculation. I don't know. But it's speculation that I've had for a while, so I hope it's right. And I like it. Is that I think AMD should go to a multi-tiered approach for upscaling. So like FSR 1.0 being the spatial upscaling, which it is currently. And then like a 2.0 can be with the temporal stuff, because that, yes, it is harder to implement, but it's not going to be terrible. I mean, think about every game that has TAA in it. Okay, it would be similar to that. But the implementation would be connected to that. So if developers are comfortable putting that in, they should be able to put the other. And then like a tier 3, so that would be tiers 1 and 2 would being temporal, and then tier 3 would be like the machine learning system. And the reason I think that this would be a good idea is because that way they can say, hey, we have this stack of technologies here, implement whichever you think is best for your game. Because not every game would really benefit from the machine learning. It might be like, you know what, the just temporal, that covers us, we're good at that. Or some might be like, you know what, we want just the spatial because we're a small group, we can't, get too fancy here. And also it might be, you know what, we do not want to trust that the people playing our game has the hardware to really be able to handle some of the more advanced stuff. Well, everything should be able to handle PAA at this point. It would be the machine learning stuff that would be tricky. But it still is. I think that going to such a multi-tiered setup would be a good idea. And maybe that is what they will do. I hope it is. Because then it's giving the developers the freedom to choose. Oh, no, I did. That was wiped off. I think would be good. And hey, I only have like 2 weeks before I can find out. Because that's I think is how long until GDC is. Alright, I'm going to stop the timer. Once there's 30 seconds left on the time. Once I refill on these, I'm going to, I'll stop them. And get fresh batteries and all that. But, yeah, it is certainly an interesting time. Because, with video game technology, because of stuff like this, where it's like, yeah, we're going to intentionally downgrade the graphics quality of the game to give you greater performance and use this system that, it might be an intelligent guess, but it's still guessing to put in the detail. Even DLSS, that is only guesswork. It really is. It's just the trained neural network is it makes very educated guesses. That's all it is. But it still is an interesting time that that's where we're at, that that's what we're doing. Alright, so, that's interesting. Just seeing the overall trend to the data here. And yeah, I wish I knew why it is. Every time I go out of the game, like to look at this, my heart rate goes up. I do not know what it is that seemingly being outside the game stresses me. But one thing... There. Stop the music. I'll start it up again when I get back. But, yeah. Oh, and see, now it's plummeted. I do not know. I don't get it. I do not get it. But hey, maybe someday somebody will actually look at this data and be able to tell me. Or maybe someday I'll meet a cardiologist and they can tell me. Alright. See you next time.